This is Sara with Posh Pooch Designs, and today's video I'm going to be showing you how to make my new release, the Loveland Headband. Now this is a free crochet pattern on my blog, and I'll put that blog link down in the notes underneath the video. Now the headband that I'm wearing is made from Lion Brand Mandala yarn, which is a number 3 weight yarn. This one here that I made earlier is made out of Caron Cake cupcake yarn, which is also a number 3 weight yarn. So you can use any number 3 weight yarn to make this headband. So to make a Loveland headband, you're going to need to use a number 3 worsted weight yarn. Now this one that I have here was made with Caron cupcake yarn. I just didn't use the pom-pom. I used that on the scarf that goes with it, and I'll show you how to do that in another video. For today's demonstration, I'm going to be using Mandala yarn from Lion Brand. It is also a worsted weight number 3. Now, if you want to substitute a worsted weight number 4, you can do that. Just keep in mind that it's a bigger weight yarn, and so your headband's probably going to be a little bit bigger. We're going to be stitching today with an H hook. An H hook is a 5.00 millimeter hook, and a lot of times with the 3 we don't use a hook quite that big. We might use a G, but I wanted it to be a little more open and loose, and so I chose to go with the H hook. You're also going to need a pair of scissors and a needle for weaving in your ends. Now this only takes about maybe an ounce, ounce and a half, depending on how big you make your headband. So you're not going to need very much. So grab your supplies and we'll get started. To begin our headband, we're going to begin at this particular band portion. And the way we're going to do that is we'll start with our slip knot and we'll chain 6. We're going to begin stitching in the second chain from the hook. This is our first chain, and we're going to begin stitching a single crochet in the second chain from the hook. Put your hook in the chain, pull up a loop. You'll have 2 loops on your hook. Yarn over and go through both of those loops, and we'll do that in the next 4 chains, which will give us a total of 5 single crochets. There we go. We're going to chain 1. There's our 5 single crochets, and we're going to turn our work. For row 2, we chained 1, and we're going to turn our work. The chain 1 does not count as a single crochet. We're going to be stitching in the back loops. Just so that you understand, that is the loops that are across the top of our work, and the front loop is the loop that's closest to you. The back loop is the loop that is facing away. My hook back in, and we're going to be stitching in the back loop of each of the single crochets across. So I'm going to put my hook in that back loop, pull up a loop, yarn over, and go through both. And I'll do this all the way across, stitching in those back loops. Chain 1 and turn. So on the front of our work you can see we have a ridge. On the back of the work we don't. And we're going to do this for all the way around the band, And if you want to make this, like I said, to fit an adult, it's about 19 to 20 to 21 inches. Remember, this is very stretchy, so If you make it too big, it might not stay on your head, so make sure you don't do too big. So for row 3, we're going to continue stitching 1 single crochet in each single crochet across, working in the back loops only, like we did on row 2. And this is the way the band on the headband will work. Each row will have 5 single crochets working in the back loops only. One single crochet in each single crochet across, only working in the back loops. And you'll see that it's going to be a nice stretchy edge. Now for this headband, you'll need to have a total of 66 rows of single crochet in order for it to fit a 19 to 20 inch head. So I'm going to continue stitching 1 single crochet in each single crochet around, only working in the back loops of the stitches. So I have stitched my 66 rows, and I'm ready to form it into the band portion of our headband. So I'm going to put those 2 ends together. Don't twist your band. Make sure it lays nice and flat. I'm going to put my hook through. And then we're going to basically sew the 2 ends together with single crochets. So we're going to put our hook through that first single crochet on this side, and through the first chain where we started on this side, pull up a loop, pull it through, and stitch a single crochet. There's 1. We're going to stitch 4 more just like that, because we want 5 single crochets across. There's 3, 4, and the last one. Go right through there. Got a little string on mine. There we go. And then we're going to chain 3. And that's the way it should look. It just helps it blend in a little bit so it doesn't stand out where we started it. Alright, now for the next row we're going to be stitching double crochets in the ends of each of these rows. Now you'll notice we have ridges on this side and on the underneath side. And so we're going to need to stitch the same number of double crochets as we have rows. We have 66 rows, so we need 66 double crochets. Our chain 3 counts as our first double crochet, and we're going to begin stitching in the next row. We'll be stitching in the ends of the row up here. So we have an indentation and a ridge, and we'll stitch a stitch in each indentation and each ridge. To stitch a double crochet, we're going to yarn over. We'll go in the top of that row where that indentation is, pull up a loop, yarn over, go through the first 2, yarn over, go through the second 2. Now our chain 3 counted as our first double crochet, and that's our next one. So let's double crochet in the top of the ridge that comes next. And this is what we'll do all around this row. We'll place a double crochet at the end of this row in that indentation. And then we'll place a double crochet at the end of this row at the ridge. And this is going to give us a nice stretchy headband, and also one that looks really nice. So our chain 3 counts as our first double crochet, and then we're double crocheting on the end of each row. All the way around. And remember, you have 66 rows, so you want to have 66 double crochets. We'll continue to do this all the way around it's a row, but it's all the way around the edge as well. And this is important that we stitch it this way because this is a nice stretchy headband, and we want it to move with our head. So just to repeat, 1 double crochet at the end of each row, stitching 1 in the ridge and 1 in between, so that we have 66 double crochets around, and then we'll join to the top of this chain 3. I finished stitching double crochets all the way around my row, and I counted. I wanted to make sure I had my 66, and so now I'm going to join to the top of this chain 3. So we just put our hook through, pull a loop through, and pull that loop through the loop that's on our hook, and then I just snug that down. Now the next row we're going to be forming these little granny square rows, and so the way we do that, we're going to chain 3, and our chain 3, oops, I grabbed the wrong tail. Our chain 3 does still count as a double crochet, and then we're going to double crochet in the next double crochet. We're going to chain 2, 1, 2. We're going to skip the next 2 double crochets, and then we'll double crochet in the next 2 stitches. And this is forming the foundation for our double crochet row. So we'll chain 2, we'll skip the next 2 double crochets, and I always just put my thumb on it, like 1, 2, then I yarn over and go in the next stitch, double crochet, and then double crochet in the next stitch. And you can see how that's working. We'll continue that around. Well, my hook didn't want to get in there. Alright, so we put 1 double crochet in the next 2 stitches. Then we chain 2. We skip 2, 1 double crochet in the next 2 stitches, chain 2, and skip 2, moving all the way around the headband, forming this granny stitch row. One double crochet in the next 2 stitches, chain 2, skip 2, working all the way around, and then once we get back around, we'll join. So go ahead and finish this row and then I'll show you how to join and do the rest of the granny stitch rows. I completed my 2 double crochets, chain 2, skip 2 pattern all the way around. I've got my last 2 chain 2s, and I'm going to join to the top of my chain 3 where I started with a slip stitch. And then I'm going to go right in this next chain 2 space with a slip stitch and chain 3. My chain 3 counted as my first double crochet. So now I'm going to stitch another double crochet in that chain 2 space. Then I'm going to chain 2, and then I'm going to move to the next chain 2 space, and I'm going to stitch 2 double crochets in that chain 2 space. And then chain 2. And I'll do that again. In the next chain 2 space, I'll stitch 2 double crochets. And chain 2. Then I'll move to the next chain 2 space and stitch 2 double crochets. And what is happening is I'm making my second row of my granny square style row. And this is the way we'll do all the way around. Chain 2 and then 2 double crochets in the next chain 2 space. Chain 2, 2 double crochets in the next chain 2 space, and chain 2. And we'll continue this all the way around until we reach back here, and we'll join again to the top of our chain 3. So I've already chained 2 double crochets in the next chain 2 space. As you can see, I finished my second row of the granny square style stitches, and I'm again going to join to the top of my chain 3 with a slip stitch. I'm again going to slip stitch into the next chain 2 space and chain 3. And the way we did this row is the way that the next 2 rows will be done. We'll have 1, 2, 3, 4 rows of the granny square style stitches, and we already have the 2, and so the next 2 rows will do exactly what we did on this row. Our chain 3 counted as 1 double crochet, so we'll place 1 double crochet in that same chain 2 space. We'll chain 2 and then place 2 double crochets in the next chain 2 space. Chain 2, 2 double crochets in the next chain 2 space. And we're going to do this for the next 2 rows on our headband. 2 double crochets in the chain 2 space, and then chain 2. 2 double crochets in the chain 2 space, and then chain 2. And we'll repeat this where we join to the top of our chain 3 with a slip stitch, and then slip stitch in the chain 2 space, and repeat again so that we have 4 rows of the granny square style stitches in the center of our headband. So I finished up those 4 rows of the granny square style rows. And now we're going to do this band up here so that we can finish off our headband. Now, if you decide you want your headband to be a little thicker than this, you can always add more rows in here if you want to. So what we're going to do is we're going to chain 3. We're going to place 1 double crochet in the next double crochet. And then we're going to place 2 double crochets in this chain 2 space. And this is going to give us a row of double crochets. Alrighty, so we'll place 1 double crochet in each double crochet. 1, 2, because we have 2 double crochets. And then we'll place 2 double crochets in the chain 2 space. 1 double crochet in the next 2 double crochets, and then we'll place 2 double crochets in the chain 2 space. So basically what we're doing on this row is stitching 1 double crochet in each double crochet and 2 double crochets in the chain 2 space. And this is going to get us back to our 66 double crochets that we started with. So I'm stitching 1 double crochet in each double crochet and 2 double crochets in each of the chain 2 spaces. We'll do this all the way around, and then we'll join to the top of our chain 3. I finished my row of solid double crochets, and now I'm going to join to the top of that chain 3 with a slip stitch, and I'm going to chain 3. Now this last row of our band, we're going to be alternating a front post double crochet and a double crochet, and that's going to give us this bumpy edge here that looks similar to this one, only it's not exactly the same, but it just gives it a nice stretchy edge and makes the headband fit really nicely. Alright, so how do we do that? Just this first chain 3 counts as our first double crochet. So we're going to begin our front post double crochet in the next stitch. Yarn over your hook, and we're going to go in the side, around the side of the stitch, not the top where we normally stitch, but on the side. Yarn over and pull it through, yarn over, go through the first 2, yarn over, and go through the second 2. So we're stitching a double crochet, we're just stitching it in a different place. Let's go ahead and stitch a double crochet in the top of the next stitch, and then we're going to skip that stitch and stitch a front post double crochet in the next stitch. So I put my hook through the double crochet from the previous row on the side, yarn over, pull it through, yarn over, just like a regular double crochet. So we're going to stitch 1 double crochet in the top of the next stitch, and then we'll stitch a front post double crochet in the next stitch. And this is what gives us that nice stretchy edge for our headband on the back edge. So 1 double crochet like we usually do in the top, and then 1 double crochet front post. And the reason that it's called a front post is because this is the post of the stitch here on the side. We normally stitch in the top of the stitch in the loops, but this is called the post. Alright, so let's stitch one in the next stitch. Then we'll stitch a front post in the next stitch. I've got a little bit of yarn barf going on over here, so we'll try to get through it without too much yarn barf. Alright, so here's my front post. I'm going to go around that post, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, go through the first two, yarn over, go through the second two. So basically we're still stitching double crochets, we're just stitching in the post instead of the top of the stitch. Alright, you keep working. I'm going to get this yarn barf out of my yarn. Well, I got most of the yarn barf out of my yarn. And I went ahead and continued stitching around. And you can see the front post and the double crochets in between. And it gives it a really, really nice look. I'm going to go ahead and finish up here. Double crochet, front post, double crochet, and then the front post, double crochet. And now I'm going to join to the top of my chain 3 with a slip stitch. And now I'm done. So I'm going to go ahead and cut my yarn barf. It happens to us all. Tie that off, and I'm just going to flip that under or over so I can show you how to weave that in. So I'm just going to take my needle and go ahead and thread that on to my needle. And I'm just going to make a couple of stitches like this. And what I do when I weave something in is I try to make sure that I go through the stitches and the fiber of the yarn and not the hole. So I'm going to go through like that. I'm going to turn and come back the other way and try to go back the other way. I try to do 3. Sometimes I don't have enough yarn, but if I have more, I just keep going back and forth, making sure I stay to the back of the yarn, and also within the color of the yarn that I'm using so that it doesn't show through. Alright, so here is the Loveland cow using the Mandela yarn. Here's the band, like this one. So this is my Loveland headband that goes with the Loveland cow. Now be looking for the Loveland cow video. We hope to get that one done so we can put these together.